welcome back to another tier list. Today we're doing Heroes of Might and Magic 5, all of the towns. This is technically Tribes of the East as well. But this is our second towns tier list. Feel free to check out my other one. I'll link it in the description as well as all my other Heroes of Might and Magic tier lists. But this is going to be a revised one. Definitely heard your guys' feedback from the first one. Definitely have always continued to play the game. So first we got to start off with my boys, Necropolis. I think it's an S tier town still and always. And honestly, the biggest reason why is because of just the Eternal Servitude, being able to receive more units after combat, after every single combat. Is pretty nasty, just automatically getting extra units, as well as once you get a lot of the Necropolis creatures upgraded, they are pretty devastating, mostly, you know, vampires, but it's a very good town, just honestly because of creature growth, but also it's very hard to kill them because they're all undead. I think they're a very good town overall. And even so, when you're attacking the town, having less morale, and everything, I think it's definitely S tier worthy because of all of that. I will also put Sylvan, as I did in the last one, up in S tier. I think Sylvan is honestly one of the most heavy attacking towns in the entire game, if not the most. I think it is, while it's not too hard to kill them because their health pools are pretty low, they're overall pretty weak, their attack damage and DPS output is, I would say, overall unmatched between hunters, druids. If you can get some nice Blade Dancer hits, even the unicorns are definitely not bad, and the dragon, obviously. The Trents are much more utility and tankiness, but still, I think Sylvan is S tier because of how much damage output they can do. They can kill an enemy team super fast, and I think they're overall pretty balanced. Their first few are definitely on the weaker side health pool, but after that, they're honestly just very tanky, so it's nice to have a good balance there. But yeah, I think they deserve it. Not so much the town building itself, but I think all of the creature growth, the heroes, and the movement is definitely S tier worthy. So we'll start with the most controversial one that I did last time. Last time I did put Dungeon in C, and I do regret that. I regretted it after I did it. More and more that I have actually forced myself to play with them and against them. While creatures obviously are the most important thing in any army, and Dungeon being so low in the creature department, they have the least amount of creatures in the entire game, I'm pretty sure. If not, they're very much there as far as creature growth on the weekly scale. But I do think that they can be very strong. I think a lot of the units are very, very good. I just think there's a lack of units, and one of their best carries being the Blood Maidens, in my opinion, as a tier 2, obviously die very easily. So a lot of what is left is just straight up tankiness and not a whole lot of damage, and having less creatures overall against other people is difficult. So I do find it. I don't think they're the worst. They were the only people that I put below C, or I'm sorry, I put below B into C, but I think I'll give them an A now. I think I was definitely wrong, and I can admit that. I've always really liked Dungeon. I've always really liked the creatures, but they always feel so far behind, in my opinion, because of the lack of creature growth. But at the same time, all of their creatures. Overall, I would say their creature team is very, very strong compared to a lot of other um, towns. So I'll bump them up to A. At the very worst, they are a B. They didn't deserve the C that I put them in before, so they definitely deserve a B. Inferno, I'm going to put into A. I think Inferno pretty much just straight up deserves it. I think they are somewhat carried by gating if you use it, but I also think they have a whole lot of great heroes to make your team better, like Fire Ballista, and whether you want specific creatures as well, like Hellhounds or something, then that's there. But I think Inferno overall as a team, because of their creatures, and honestly, I would say Imps are probably the strongest tier 1 in the game. Just being able to essentially stop everybody's mana on the enemy team. So if you're facing like an academy team or something, they're pretty much useless against you after your Imps go, and they usually go within the first few turns. So I think overall Inferno is a very good choice. I don't think they're super hard to beat. Aside the fact of if you're running a very heavy spell-based team. But creature-wise, as long as you can honestly deal with the Pit Fiends and get them out of the way as quickly as possible and kill them, they're not too difficult to beat. Now, the only reason why they would be is gating again, but that takes up a turn for them, so it's hit or miss. But I do think they deserve an A tier. Stronghold. Stronghold, I'll give an A tier as well. I think a lot of their creatures are very, very good. I just think, honestly, the Wyvern to me is awful. And same with Cyclops. I feel like those are probably the two worst 6 and 7 group out of the entire game, in my opinion. One of them for sure. But I do feel like they deserve it. They're super good early mid game as far as creatures and what they can do. I think Centaurs, Warriors, Sheftons are all very, very strong for their placements. And I think as a team, getting the Bloodthirst is massive, but also if you don't or you can't, then that's much, much worse for you and definitely devastates them. I also don't really like the slave trade thing doesn't help, and neither does the whole sacrificing stuff with dungeon and Necropolis, or I'm sorry, not Necropolis. Whatchamacallit has something like that. Inferno, I forget exactly what they do, but overall, I still think they deserve an A tier. I think they're a very strong army. Overall, I think they're pretty difficult to deal with because they have good frontline and backline. But honestly, if you can kill the Centaur carry, then they're not too difficult to face if you can hit that up early. Now, I would say for arguably the most controversial one, that I put Dungeon down in C last time. I honestly feel like I don't know if Fortress deserves the spot or not. We'll get back to Fortress. We'll go Academy. Academy, I'm going to put in B. I think the biggest thing that carries them is them being all very high in magic resistance because they're, what do you want to call it? Incorporeal, but they're also like, they're not undead. Whatever, elemental, if you will. So it's very hard to use magic against them. They're very strong. I would say Academy is probably one of the stronger early game towns, but honestly late game to mid, Djinns, while have massive attack, are so fucking weak that you can kill them so easily as a tier 5. It doesn't even, they feel like a tier 1 as far as health pool. Rakshas honestly are also just not there for a tier 6 to me. They're very weak in my opinion. But I don't think they're bad. I think you just have to definitely use Academy very specifically. And they do have strong points, especially against um, anybody that is using spell heavy teams. Um, but I can't really give them. They definitely don't deserve S, but they definitely don't deserve C. But I'm not sure that they can really be put into A. I think they're overall one of the weaker towns. But I still enjoy them. I think they're a good town. I just think they're not as consistent as other towns are as far as capability to beat everybody. Haven as well, I think, is one of the weaker towns in the game. Honestly, I feel like they are early game carried by the archer until you get Cavalier and Angel. Everybody else basically sucks, to be honest. I mean, peasants, ass. Squires, they're okay, but they're the most mid unit in the game, I swear. Griffins can be devastating, but you're also like just gonna put them up in the air and nobody's gonna see them for half the game anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then priests, I would say, obviously this goes with any creature. The more units that you have, the better and more damaging and more defensive they're gonna be. But that is the most true with the priests in Haven. They are so weak for the longest time until you get just like some amount, and then they're just devastating. So they can be good, but you have to get so many of them for them to be even worth it. Obviously, that goes for most every creature in the whole game, but they are super weak until you get to that point. But other than that, Haven is definitely carried early game by the archer, and then until you get Cavalier and Angel. Now, Cavalier and Angel definitely I'd say are a great 1-2 combo for sure. Definitely some strong units. And even Peasants giving you taxes is a little bit nice. And I think Haven is definitely okay, but as far as like viability, I would choose most any other town aside from Haven. But that's just me. I would definitely put, honestly, in some kind of order of this as far as where I would put Haven. I would probably put Fortress and then Haven in my last two for sure is what I would choose. Now, back to Fortress. Fortress is just so bad until you get the Rune Priest. Once you get the Rune Priest, they're super strong. Thanes are very, very strong. And then I would say the Lizard is arguably the best tier 7 in the game to me. One of them for sure. They're definitely up there. But until that point, Fortress is so bad. And I feel like their spells are pretty shit, and unless you're attacking their castle, then the only benefit for them, or for you if you're running Fortress to do that, is that you get a free, like, what, 1,000 tier 1 Guardians. Like, is that really even worth it? Like, don't get me wrong, it's very nice to have that other unit out there and to have a decent number to where it's going to take at least one massive hit or a few, depending on how late the game has gone, to kill it. But I would say they probably have the best top 3 grouping in the whole game. One of them for sure. I think it's better than Leech White and Bone Dragon for sure. I think it's better than Unicorn Trent and Green Dragon. Overall, honestly, it's minimum it can compete. Those top 3 as a group can compete with virtually any other top 3 in the game. But I would have to say overall Fortress is just so weak. The Guardians are not that great. The Spear guys at tier 2 are not good at all. The Bear Riders are decent, but there's so many other better tier 3 units. I mean, you got Ghosts, you got Hunters, you got Minotaurs, um, Warriors, Golems. They're all better than the Bears. The Berserkers are okay. Don't get me wrong, the Berserkers are decent, but overall, still, tier 4 is okay. Vamps, fuck them up. Druids would fuck them up. Grim Raiders, I'd still take them over the Berserkers. What do we got? I think Succubus. Shamans, not so much, but Shamans are much more utility than anything. Djinns, if they get the first hit, but if not, they're obviously going to get fucked on. And then Griffins, I'd say is probably an even fight. But overall, the Berserkers are not that great. But then Fortress steps up for sure. But I still would have to put them as one of the worst. Their first 3 to 4 creatures are just so easily dealt with that if you can get through the other 3, which arguably is the harder ones, because obviously they're the higher ones, then it's a pretty easy one, especially if you're not going to their castle itself. But yeah, I would say Fortress is pretty awful. But that's my tier list for 5 now updated here in 2023. It's been, I don't know how many months since I did the first one, so I'll link that down in the description, as well as all my other Heroes of Might and Magic tier lists. Don't forget, like, subscribe. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think, where you guys would place your favorite and least favorite towns here, and we will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.